The afternoon sun hung low over Crestwood, a quiet suburban enclave in Atlanta, where manicured lawns and stately homes whispered of ambition and arrival. Marcus Reed stood in the driveway of his two-story brick house, arms crossed, watching the sunlight dance across the curves of a ballet slipper-pink Porsche 911. The car, a custom-order masterpiece, gleamed like a jewel against the backdrop of their modest but well-kept home. Its sleek lines and vibrant hue were more than a luxury. They were a promise kept, a dream realized after years of sacrifice. Marcus's chest swelled with pride, not just for the car, but for the woman it was meant for. His wife, Dr. Lena Harris. 3 years. That's how long Marcus had saved, squirreling away bonuses from his cybersecurity firm, Reed Tech Solutions, and skipping vacations to afford the $160,000 price tag. Every late-night debugging code, every client pitch that stretched into dawn, every moment of doubt when investors questioned whether a black man from modest roots could build a tech empire, it had all led to this. The Porsche wasn't just a car, it was a testament to their journey. Marcus and Lena had clawed their way up from a cramped apartment in East Atlanta, where roaches skittered across countertops and dreams felt like luxuries they couldn't afford. Now, here they were, in Crestwood, a neighborhood of doctors, lawyers, and old money, where their presence as the only black couple on the block turned heads, some in admiration, others in suspicion. Lena, a pediatric neurosurgeon, had her own battles. Medical school had been a gauntlet of sleepless nights, microaggressions from professors who assumed she was on scholarship, and the weight of being the only black woman in her program. But she'd emerged as one of the best, saving children's lives at Atlanta Children's Hospital with a precision that earned her the nickname Steady Hands among her colleagues. The Porsche was her dream, whispered late at night when exhaustion loosened her guard. One day, Marcus, I want a pink 911. Not just any pink, ballet slipper pink. Something that says I made it, you know. Marcus had nodded, filing it away, determined to make it real. He'd planned the reveal for their 10th anniversary, a milestone that felt like a lifetime and a blink all at once. Lena had been on a 36-hour shift, her pager buzzing relentlessly as she navigated a delicate surgery on a 6-year-old with a brain tumor. Marcus had driven to the hospital that morning, the Porsche hidden under a tarp in their garage. When Lena pulled into the driveway in her practical SUV, her scrubs wrinkled and her eyes heavy with fatigue, Marcus was waiting. He'd tied a massive, red bow around the car, a gesture that felt almost comically extravagant but perfectly fitting for the moment. "Lena, come here," he'd called, his voice betraying a boyish excitement he couldn't contain. She'd frowned, confused, her braid loose and her glasses slightly askew. "Marcus, what's this? I'm too tired for surprises." But when he pulled back the tarp, revealing the Porsche's shimmering pink curves, her hands flew to her mouth. Tears welled in her eyes, spilling over as she laughed, a sound so rare and unguarded it made Marcus's heart ache. "You didn't," she whispered, circling the car, her fingers trailing along its hood. "You remembered." "Every word," he said, pulling her into a hug. "Happy anniversary, love." For a week, the Porsche transformed their routine. Lena cruised to the hospital, her usual stoic demeanor replaced by a grin that made her look a decade younger. Neighbors stopped to gawk, offering high fives and compliments. Mr. Thompson, the retired engineer across the street, whistled and called it a work of art. Mrs. Lynn, the widowed teacher who tended her roses with near-religious devotion, clapped her hands and said, "Lena, you deserve every inch of that beauty." Even the kids on the block, usually glued to their bikes or phones, paused to stare, whispering about the pink rocket in the Reed's driveway. But not everyone was charmed. At the end of the street, in a colonial mansion that dwarfed every other house in Crestwood, lived the Whitmores. Cynthia Cindy Whitmore, with her frosted blonde hair and penchant for designer handbags, had moved in 6 months ago with her husband Lawrence, a hedge fund manager who was rarely home, and their 18-year-old daughter, Brooke. Cindy's presence was like a storm cloud over block parties, her smiles tight and her comments laced with barbs. "This neighborhood's changed so much," she'd say, her eyes flicking toward Marcus and Lena, the implication clear. "They were the change she didn't welcome. Brooke, fresh out of high school and stinging from Ivy League rejections, spent her days lounging by the Whitmore's pool or posting selfies on social media, her captions dripping with entitlement. Marcus had overheard her once, whining to a friend about settling for a state college. "It's so unfair. I deserve better." Their interactions with the Whitmores had been limited to stiff nods and forced pleasantries, but Marcus sensed the undercurrent of disdain. Cindy's glances at Lena's scrubs or Marcus's business casual attire carried a weight he'd learned to recognize long ago, prejudice dressed up as curiosity. Trouble arrived on a Tuesday morning, 8 days after the Porsche's debut. Marcus was in the driveway, adjusting his tie for a critical client pitch that could secure a multi-million-dollar contract for ReedTech. Lena had taken her SUV to the hospital, leaving the Porsche tucked safely in the garage. Marcus was backing out his Lexus when he saw them. Cindy and Brooke, marching up the street in matching pastel tracksuits, their faces set with a purpose that made his stomach tighten. He glanced at his watch, 8:15 a.m. He was already cutting into his prep time, but something told him this wasn't a friendly visit. "Mr. Marcus Reed," Cindy began, her voice dripping with a syrupy politeness that didn't reach her eyes. "We need to talk about that car." Marcus forced a neutral smile. "Good morning, Cindy. What's the issue?" Brooke stepped forward, arms crossed, her lips pursed in a pout that looked rehearsed. "It's my car," she said, her voice sharp with indignation. "Or it should be." Marcus blinked, caught off guard. "Your car?" Cindy jumped in, her mask of courtesy slipping. "Brooke's been begging for a pink Porsche for her graduation. We've told everyone. Her father promised her one, but it's delayed because of his business. And now," she gestured toward the garage where the Porsche's pink nose was just visible, "you've got one in her exact color. It's embarrassing. She'll look like she's copying your wife when she gets hers." Marcus stared, his mind racing to process the absurdity. Was this teenager throwing a tantrum because Lena's car stole her spotlight? He took a deep breath, keeping his tone even. "I'm sorry you feel that way, but Lena's wanted this car for years. I saved for it as an anniversary gift. It's hers." Cindy's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a smirk. "I find that hard to believe." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Excuse me?" She waved a hand, her diamond bracelets glinting. "Those cars aren't cheap. It's surprising you could afford it." The insinuation hit like a punch, but Marcus had faced worse. Growing up in a neighborhood where ambition was met with skepticism, he'd learned to navigate prejudice with a calm he'd perfected over years. "What are you implying, Cindy?" She shrugged, her smile sharp. "Just that it's odd. Lawrence mentioned Brooke's pink Porsche at the country club, and suddenly you have one, in a neighborhood like this." "Like what?" Marcus pressed, his voice low but firm. "You know what I mean," she snapped. "This is Crestwood, not wherever you came from." "You people," Marcus repeated, his voice a quiet challenge. Brooke, impatient, cut in. "Mom, just tell him to sell it to me. It's not fair." Cindy straightened, her tone shifting to businesslike. "We'll offer a fair price. It would mean more to Brooke." Marcus shook his head, his patience thinning. "It's not for sale. Lena's a surgeon who saves kids' lives. She earned this. Now I have a meeting." Brooke's face reddened, and she stomped her foot like a child denied a toy. "This is unfair. Daddy says I get what I want. No one should have a better car than me, especially not—" Cindy's glare cut her off, but Marcus caught the venom in Brooke's eyes, the slur she'd nearly let slip. He felt a familiar anger rise, but he kept it in check. Mrs. Lynn, watering her roses across the street, froze, her eyes wide as she witnessed the exchange. Marcus pulled out his phone, hitting record. "Repeat that," he said, his voice steady. Cindy lunged for the phone, but Marcus stepped back. "You're on my property using slurs. Leave or this goes to the police and my lawyer." Cindy paled, but Brooke wailed, oblivious to the gravity. "Pink's my color. Everyone knows it." They retreated, Cindy hissing, "Lawrence will handle this. He'll find out how you got that car." Marcus watched them go, his hands shaking as he climbed into his Lexus. He called Lena, his voice tight as he recounted the encounter. "They're not done. he warned. "We need to be ready." Lena's voice was calm but resolute. "Let them try. That car's mine, and so is our peace." Marcus wished he shared her confidence. As he drove to his meeting, the Whitmores' words echoed, a reminder that in Crestwood, their success was a beacon and a target. Marcus Reed sat in the polished conference room of Reed Tech Solutions, his laptop open to a slideshow he'd rehearsed a dozen times. The room smelled faintly of coffee and leather, the floor-to-ceiling windows offering a view of downtown Atlanta's skyline, where glass towers glinted under the late-morning sun. His team, 5 engineers and a marketing lead, sat around the table, their faces a mix of anticipation and nerves. Today's pitch was for a contract with Pinnacle Systems, a logistics giant needing a cybersecurity overhaul. If Marcus landed this, it could mean a $3 million deal, enough to expand his firm and hire more staff from underserved communities, a mission he'd held since starting Reed Tech in a cramped basement office 7 years ago. But his mind kept drifting to the morning's confrontation. Cindy Whitmore's smirk, Brooke's petulant outburst, the venom in their words. It lingered like a bruise. "You people," Cindy had said, her tone slicing through years of Marcus's carefully built armor. He'd faced prejudice before. The bank officer who'd questioned his loan application, the client who'd assumed he was the IT guy rather than the CEO. Each time, he'd responded with results. Building a company that now employed 20 people and protected Fortune 500 clients from data breaches. But this felt different. The Whitmores weren't just skeptical. They were entitled, wielding their wealth and connections like weapons. And that slur Brooke had nearly spat, it hung in the air, a warning of worse to come. "Marcus?" His lead engineer Jamal leaned forward, snapping him back to the room. "You good, man? You're zoning out." Marcus forced a smile, adjusting his tie. "Just strategizing. Let's run through the demo one more time." As Jamal walked through the encryption protocols they'd designed, Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from Lena. "Tough case today. Can we talk later? Love you." He typed a quick reply. "Always love. You got this." And refocused, but a knot tightened in his chest. Lena's work at Atlanta Children's Hospital was her calling, but it came with its own battles. Long hours, emotional weight, and colleagues who sometimes underestimated her brilliance. The Whitmores' audacity was a distraction neither of them needed. Across town, Lena stood in the sterile glow of an operating room, her gloved hands steady as she navigated the delicate terrain of a 7-year-old's brain. The patient, Amara, was a bright girl with a laugh that could light up a room, now fighting a glioma that threatened her vision. Lena's team, nurses, an anesthesiologist, and her surgical resident, Dr. Priya Shah, moved in sync, their focus absolute. The monitor beeped steadily, Amara's vitals stable for now. Lena's voice was calm as she directed Priya to adjust the retractor. "Careful on the optic nerve," she said, her eyes locked on the microscope's feed. "We're close." Priya nodded, her admiration for Lena clear even through her surgical mask. Lena had mentored Priya since her first rotation, seeing in her the same hunger to prove herself that Lena had felt as a resident. Outside the OR, though, the hospital wasn't always a haven. Lena had overheard whispers, colleagues questioning her rapid rise, attributing it to diversity quotas rather than her skill. She'd ignored them, letting her outcomes speak, a 95% success rate in pediatric neurosurgery, one of the best in the Southeast. But the Whitmores' confrontation, relayed by Marcus over the phone, had shaken her. It wasn't just about the Porsche. It was the assumption that their success was somehow illegitimate, a theft of someone else's privilege. As the surgery wrapped, Lena stepped back, peeling off her gloves. "Good work, team," she said, her voice warm but tired. Priya lingered, sensing her mentor's distraction. "Everything okay, Dr. Harris?" Lena hesitated. She wasn't one to unload personal burdens, but Priya's earnest eyes invited trust. "Just neighbor issues," she said, keeping it vague. "People making assumptions about what we deserve." Priya frowned, her own experiences as a South Asian woman in medicine giving her insight. "Sounds like they're intimidated. Your car's got the whole hospital talking, by the way. Pink Doc's a legend already. Lena chuckled, the nickname lifting her spirits. Let's hope Amara's recovery adds to the legend. Back in Crestwood, the day took a darker turn. Marcus returned home after a successful pitch. Pinnacle's CEO had been impressed, promising a follow-up by week's end. To find Lena's SUV in the driveway, a folded note tucked under the windshield wiper. His pulse quickened as he unfolded it, the words scrawled in Sharpie. This car doesn't belong to you. Sell it or else. No signature, but the intent was clear. He scanned the street, half expecting to see Cindy or Brooke watching from their mansion. The Colonial's curtains were drawn, but a faint flicker suggested someone was home. Inside, Marcus called Lena, who was still at the hospital charting Amara's post-op notes. You need to see this, he said, snapping a photo of the note and texting it. I'm betting it's the Whitmores. Lena's voice was tight with anger. They're escalating. We need to document everything. Already on it, Marcus said, checking the footage from their security cameras. The system, a perk of his cybersecurity expertise, covered every angle of their property. Sure enough, at 2:17 p.m., a figure in a hoodie, too slight to be anyone, but Brooke, slipped into the driveway, placed the note, and darted away. Marcus saved the clip, his jaw clenched. We've got proof. I'm calling James. James Carter, their lawyer, was a colleague's recommendation, known for his tenacity in civil rights cases. Over the phone, his voice was calm, but firm. Keep the note, save the footage, and don't engage. This smells like harassment with a side of racial profiling. We'll build a case if they push further. Marcus hung up, his mind racing. He thought of his parents, who'd worked double shifts in a factory to send him to college, warning him that success would always come with a target on his back. You'll be too much for some people, his mother had said. Don't let them dim your light. He'd promised himself he wouldn't, but the Whitmore's audacity tested that resolve. That evening, Lena came home, her scrubs swapped for a sweater and jeans, her face a mix of exhaustion and defiance. Over dinner, takeout from their favorite soul food spot with collards and cornbread to soothe the day's edges, they strategized. They think they can intimidate us, Lena said, her fork pausing midair. That car's not just a gift, Marcus. It's a symbol. We earned every inch of this life. Marcus nodded, his hand finding hers. And we're not giving it up. But we need to be smart. Lawrence has connections, hospital boards, police, you name it. We can't underestimate them. Lena's eyes hardened. Let them try. I've faced worse in the OR. We'll fight this together. Their resolve was tested sooner than expected. The next morning, Marcus woke to a notification from his security system. Motion detected at 3:04 a.m. He pulled up the footage, his heart sinking. The Porsche, still in the garage, was untouched, but the driveway showed a shadow moving near. Lena's SUV. No clear face, but the hoodie matched Brooke's from the note incident. Marcus saved the clip, his anger simmering. They're not stopping, he muttered, showing Lena as she sipped her coffee. She shook her head, her voice steady. Then neither do we. Call James. We're not playing defense forever. By Friday, the Whitmores upped the ante. Marcus was in his home office reviewing Pinnacle's contract draft when a sleek black Mercedes pulled into their driveway. Lawrence Whitmore stepped out, his tailored suit and polished loafers screaming, wealth. Marcus watched through the window, his instincts on high alert. Lawrence's visits were rare. His hedge fund kept him in Manhattan most weeks, but his presence now felt like a storm rolling in. Marcus met him at the door, arms crossed. Lawrence, to what do I owe this? Lawrence offered a handshake, his smile all charm and no warmth. Marcus, let's talk man to man. Marcus ignored the hand. Your family's harassing us over Lena's car. There's no issue here, Lawrence chuckled, but his eyes were cold. Brooke's obsessed with that exact model. I promised her one, but it's delayed. She's been a nightmare since seeing Lena's. Let's make this easy. I'll pay 20%, above what you paid. Profit for you, happiness for Brooke. Marcus's voice was flat. It's Lena's anniversary gift, not for sale. And your wife's racism isn't a misunderstanding. Lawrence's smile tightened. Careful, Marcus. I have connections. Hospital boards, police, county contracts. It'd be a shame if your business or Lena's job faced scrutiny. The threat was a blade, sharp and deliberate. Marcus felt his pulse spike but kept his tone even. That sounds like blackmail. My cameras caught every word. Lawrence's eyes flickered to the security camera above the door, his composure slipping for a fraction of a second. He backpedaled, raising his hands. Just a friendly offer. Think it over. As Lawrence drove off, Marcus replayed the footage, saving it to a secure drive. He called Lena, who was in a break room between consults. He's playing dirty, Marcus said. We need to be ready for anything. Lena's voice was steel. They're picking a fight they won't win. I've got a patient to check on, but we'll plan tonight. Love you. Marcus hung up, staring at the pink Porsche through the garage window. It was more than a car now. It was a battleground. The Whitmores thought they could bully their way to victory, but Marcus and Lena had fought too hard, too long, to back down. They'd built their life brick by brick, and no one, not Cindy's prejudice, Brooke's tantrums, or Lawrence's threats, would tear it apart. The early morning light filtered through the blinds of the Reed's kitchen, casting soft stripes across the oak table where Marcus and Lena sat, their coffee mugs untouched. It was Monday, 5 days after Lawrence Whitmore's thinly veiled threat in their driveway, and the air in their home felt charged, like the calm before a storm. Marcus scrolled through his phone, reviewing the security footage from the weekend. The shadowy figure in the hoodie, almost certainly Brooke, hadn't returned since leaving the threatening note on Lena's SUV, but Marcus's gut told him the Whitmores weren't done. Lena, still in her pajamas, her braid tucked under a silk scarf, stared at the note, now sealed in a plastic bag for James Carter, their lawyer. This is personal, Lena said, her voice low but steady. They're not just after the car. They're trying to unravel everything we've built. Marcus nodded, his jaw tight. Lawrence thinks he can flex his connections and scare us into submission. But we've got the footage, the note, and Mrs. Lynn's statement about Brooke's slur. James says it's enough to start building a case. Lena's eyes flicked to the garage where the pink Porsche sat, its vibrant hue a silent defiance. I'm not giving it up, Marcus. Not because of the car itself, but because of what it represents. We earned this. They don't get to take it. Marcus reached across the table, squeezing her hand. We won't let them. But we need to be ready. Lawrence isn't bluffing about his influence. The weight of his words hung between them. Marcus's cybersecurity firm, Reed Tech Solutions, was at a critical juncture. The Pinnacle Systems contract was still pending, and whispers of Lawrence's reach had already reached Marcus's ears. A smaller client had delayed a payment last week, citing board concerns, a vague excuse that smelled of external pressure. Lena, too, faced scrutiny at Atlanta Children's Hospital. An anonymous complaint about her professional conduct had surfaced Friday, triggering a review by the hospital board. It was baseless. Her record was impeccable, but the timing was too convenient to be coincidence. Lena stood, grabbing her keys. I've got rounds and a follow-up with Amara. Let's talk tonight. We'll figure out our next move. Marcus watched her go, his heart a mix of admiration and worry. Lena's strength was a constant, but he knew the toll her work took, especially with cases like Amara's. The 7-year-old's glioma surgery had been a success, but her recovery was fragile, and Lena poured herself into every moment with the girl. Marcus couldn't shake the fear that the Whitmores' vendetta would target Lena's career, the one thing she'd fought hardest to build. At the hospital, Lena slipped into her scrubs, the familiar routine grounding her. The pediatric ward smelled of antiseptic and hope, a strange alchemy of fear and healing. Amara's room was at the end of the hall, decorated with crayon drawings taped to the walls. A son, a dog, a family holding hands. Amara sat up in bed, her head wrapped in bandages, her brown eyes bright despite the IV in her arm. Her mother, Tanya, sat beside her, her face etched with exhaustion but softened by her daughter's smile. Dr. Harris, Amara chirped, waving a coloring book. I made you a picture. Lena's heart lifted as she took the drawing, A stick figure, doctor in a pink coat holding a heart. This is beautiful, Amara. Is this me? The next morning, Marcus dropped the Porsche at a body shop, where the manager, a friend from his old neighborhood, promised a quick repair. But the insurance adjuster was less cooperative, asking pointed questions about the car's purchase and Marcus's finances. Just making sure everything checks out, the adjuster said, his tone implying doubt. Marcus recognized the pattern, another thread in the Whitmore's web. At the hospital, Lena faced her own battle. The board's review of the anonymous complaint had escalated with a meeting scheduled for Wednesday. Priya pulled her aside after rounds, her voice urgent. I heard from a friend in admin. The complaint came from an external source, someone with ties to a hospital donor. Sound familiar? Lena's stomach churned. Cindy's been cozying up to the board chair at charity galas. This has her fingerprints all over it. As Lena checked on Amara, who was coloring again, her smile a small victory, Lena felt a surge of purpose. Amara's fight mirrored her own, a battle against odds stacked by forces beyond their control. She wouldn't let the Whitmores take her down, not when kids like Amara needed her. Back in Crestwood, Marcus met with Elena Martinez, the PI James had hired. Elena was a no-nonsense woman in her 40s, her dark hair pulled back, her eyes sharp with experience. I've dealt with people like the Whitmores before, she said, sipping coffee in Marcus's office. Entitled, connected, and sloppy. I'll dig into Lawrence's firm, Cindy's social circle, and that judge he brags about. If they're pulling strings, I'll find the threads. Marcus nodded, his resolve hardening. Do it. We're not just protecting our car, we're protecting our lives. As Elena left, Marcus glanced at the photo on his desk, him and Lena at their wedding, laughing under a shower of rice. They'd built this life together, against odds that had tested them at every turn. The Whitmores thought they could break them, but they'd underestimated the Reed's strength, and the community quietly rallying behind them. The morning sun barely broke through the gray clouds hanging over Crestwood, casting a muted glow on the Reed's driveway. Marcus Reed stood in his home office, reviewing a contract proposal for a new client, his focus fractured by the events of the past week. The slashed tire on Lena's pink Porsche 911, the threatening note, and the dismissive police response had left a bitter taste, but he and Lena were determined to fight back. Their dining room table was now a war room, cluttered with evidence, security footage, Mrs. Lynn's statement, and the note in its plastic sleeve. James Carter, their lawyer, had assured them they had a strong case for harassment, but Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that the Whitmores were planning something bigger. Lena had taken a rare day off from Atlanta Children's Hospital, her first in weeks, and was in the kitchen baking cornbread. The warm aroma a small act of defiance against the tension gripping their home. Marcus glanced at her through the open door, her movements precise but her shoulders tight. She'd been quiet since the hospital board's review of the anonymous complaint escalated, a shadow cast over her impeccable career. The complaint, vague but damaging, accused her of unprofessional conduct during surgeries, a claim that could jeopardize her position if the board didn't dismiss it. Lena suspected Cindy Whitmore's influence. Her connections to hospital donors were no secret, but proving it was another matter. The calm shattered at 10:37 a.m. Marcus's phone buzzed with a security alert, motion detected in the driveway. He pulled up the live feed, his heart lurching as a tow truck rumbled into view, its yellow paint and clanging chains an intrusion against the quiet street. Two men in work vests hopped out, led by a burly guy with a clipboard who introduced himself as Mike when Marcus stormed outside. "What the hell is this?" Marcus demanded, his voice sharp but controlled. Mike, unfazed, handed over a stack of papers. "Court order to seize the vehicle," he said, nodding toward the Porsche in the garage. "Whitmore v. Reed. Dispute over ownership." Marcus's mind reeled as he scanned the document. Signed by Judge Harold Grayson, it claimed the Reeds had fraudulently acquired the Porsche, alleging they'd copied the Whitmore's order for an identical car. The words hit like a slap, stole their idea, as if a car's color could be owned. "This is insane," Marcus said, his hands shaking. "We've never been sued. This is our car, paid in full. Lena appeared at the door, her apron dusted, with flour, her eyes blazing. You're not taking my car, she told Mike, snatching the papers from Marcus. She skimmed them, her lips tightening. This is an ex parte order. They didn't even notify us. Before Mike could respond, a white Range Rover pulled up, and Cindy and Brooke Whitmore stepped out, their faces smug. Cindy waved a copy of the order, her smile venomous. Problem? She asked, her voice dripping with mock concern. The judge agrees. You stole our idea for Brooke's car. It's ours now. Brooke, in a pink sundress, snapped a selfie with the Porsche in the background, giggling. Pink's my color, she said, oblivious to the gravity of the moment. Marcus's anger flared, but he kept his voice steady. We have receipts, Cindy. This is fraud. Cindy shrugged, her diamond earrings catching the light. The judge disagrees. It's impounded until the hearing. Mike shifted uncomfortably, sensing the tension. I've got to follow the order, he said, but his tone wavered, as if he doubted its legitimacy. Lena faced Cindy, her stance unyielding. You think you can bully us with your connections? I save kids with cancer. This isn't over. James Carter's number was already dialed on Marcus's phone. He stepped away, relaying the situation, in a low voice. James's response was immediate. Warn them of liability for an unlawful seizure. I'm on my way. Marcus turned to Mike. You tow that car. You're liable for executing a fraudulent order. We have proof of purchase and this order's got holes. Think carefully. Mike hesitated, glancing at the Whitmores. Cindy's smile faltered, but she pressed forward. Do your job, Mike. Judge Grayson's a friend. He knows what's right. James arrived 15 minutes later, his tie slightly askew but his demeanor calm. He reviewed the order, his eyes narrowing. Ex parte, no notice, and based on a flimsy claim. This reeks of abuse of process. I'll file for an emergency hearing to vacate it, but the car's impounded until then. Brooke, still snapping photos, squealed. It'll be mine soon. Cindy shushed her, but her eyes gleamed with triumph. Lawrence will make sure of it, she said, her voice a promise. As the tow truck hauled the Porsche away, its pink frame glinting defiantly, Lena's hands clenched into fists. Marcus put a hand on her shoulder, his voice low. We'll get it back. This is bigger than the car now. That night, the Reeds' dining room became a fortress of resolve. James spread out the court order, pointing out irregularities. No affidavit, no evidence beyond the Whitmore's word, and Grayson's signature, bold and hurried. Grayson's got a reputation, James said. Connected. Old money, not above. Bending rules for friends. We need to dig into his ties to Lawrence. Lena nodded, her voice steady despite the day's toll. It's not about the car anymore. It's their belief they can take what's ours because we're black. We're stopping them. For us and anyone else they'd target. Marcus felt a surge of pride, tempered by worry. He glanced at Amara's drawing, taped to the fridge, a reminder of Lena's purpose beyond their personal fight. Elena's already on it, he said, referring to the PI James had hired. She's digging into the Whitmores and Grayson. If there's dirt, she'll find it. Across town, Elena Martinez sat in her cluttered office, a single lamp illuminating stacks of files and a laptop screen. She'd spent the day pulling records on Lawrence Whitmore's hedge fund, Whitmore Capital. Whispers of a fraud probe had surfaced, offshore accounts, questionable tax filings, but nothing concrete yet. Her contacts at the county courthouse confirmed Grayson's reputation, a judge who played golf with Atlanta's elite, including Lawrence. A photo from a charity gala showed them laughing together, Grayson's hand on Lawrence's shoulder. Elena's gut told her the court order was no coincidence. She dialed a source, a legal assistant at Lawrence's firm. Anything on backdated documents? Elena asked, her voice low. The assistant, nervous, hesitated. There's talk of a Porsche order dated before the Reeds. It's fishy. Dates don't add up. I'll keep looking, but I need protection. You've got it, Elena said. Send me what you find. Back in Crestwood, the community was stirring. Mrs. Lynn, the retired teacher, had spread word of the tow truck incident, her outrage contagious. At a neighborhood coffee hour, she cornered Malik Johnson, a young lawyer who'd moved in 2 months ago. Malik, a black attorney specializing in civil litigation, listened as Mrs. Lynn recounted Brooks' slur and the vandalism. "They're weaponizing the system," she said, her eyes fierce. "Marcus and Lena need us." Malik nodded, his legal mind already turning. "I'll review their evidence, maybe consult with their lawyer. This smells like a setup." By evening, Mrs. Lynn had rallied 3 other neighbors: Mr. Thompson, the engineer who admired the Porsche, and the Garcias, a Latino couple who'd faced their own share of Cindy's snide remarks. They agreed to write statements documenting Cindy's history of veiled racism at block parties, comments about keeping Crestwood traditional that always landed pointedly on the Reeds. At the hospital, Lena checked on Amara, whose recovery was steady but slow. The girl's smile, though weaker, was a lifeline. "You coming to my birthday, Pink Doc?" Amara asked, clutching her coloring book. Lena's heart ached. "Wouldn't miss it, kiddo." But as she left the room, Priya Shah pulled her aside, her face grim. "The board meeting's tomorrow. They're pushing hard on that complaint. Rumor is, a donor's leaning on them." Cindy Whitmore's name came up. Lena's stomach twisted. "She's trying to ruin me, but I'm not backing down." That night, Marcus and Lena sat with James, plotting their counterattack. Elena's initial report confirmed Grayson's country club ties to Lawrence, and the legal assistant's tip about backdated documents hinted at fraud. James outlined their strategy: file for an emergency hearing with a neutral judge, present their evidence, and pursue a restraining order against the Whitmores. "We've got a shot to vacate this," he said, "but we need to move fast." Marcus looked at Lena, her eyes fierce despite the exhaustion etched into her face. "We're not just fighting for the car," she said. "We're fighting for our place here, for every kid like Amara who needs me, for every dream we've built." At the hospital, Lena faced a different battle. The board meeting was set for Friday morning, and Priya Shah had warned her that Cindy's influence was strong. A donor, likely tied to Lawrence's network, had pushed for the review, citing concerns from an anonymous source. Lena spent the evening preparing, gathering letters from colleagues and patients' families, including Tanya, Amara's mother, who'd written a glowing testament to Lena's skill and compassion. Amara's recovery was a bright spot in the storm. During rounds, the girl was sitting up, sketching a new drawing, a pink car with Pink Doc on the side. "For you," Amara said, her voice stronger. "You're my hero." Lena's throat tightened. "You're mine, kiddo. Keep fighting. Okay?" Tanya pulled Lena aside, her eyes worried. "I heard about the board. Is it because of that car nonsense?" Lena hesitated, then nodded. "Some people don't like seeing us succeed, but I'm not letting them win." Tanya's jaw set. "You saved my girl. Whatever you need, testimony, a petition, I'm there." In Crestwood, the community was rallying. Mrs. Lynn hosted a meeting at her house, her living room crowded with neighbors, Mr. Thompson, the Garcias, and Malik Johnson, the young lawyer. Malik reviewed the Reed's evidence, his legal mind sharp. "This is textbook abusive process," he said. "I'll draft an amicus brief for your lawsuit, James. The Whitmore's behavior is a threat to the whole neighborhood." Mrs. Garcia, a nurse who'd faced Cindy's snubs, spoke up. "She called us outsiders at the last block party, like we don't belong because we're not rich or white." "We're with you, Marcus and Lena." Mr. Thompson nodded. "That car's a symbol. You earned it. They can't stand that." But not everyone was on board. 2 neighbors, the Parkers, older and tied to the Whitmore's social circle, stayed, silent, their absence a quiet allegiance to status quo. Mrs. Lynn's eyes narrowed. "They'll see the truth when it's public," she said, her voice carrying the weight of her civil rights past. Elena Martinez's investigation was gaining traction. Late that night, she called Marcus with an update. "Grayson and Lawrence are thicker than I thought," she said. "Country club buddies, vacations together, and Grayson's son works at Whitmore Capital. I've got proof their Porsche inquiry was backdated. filed after yours, with forged timestamps. And there's more. Lawrence's firm is under a federal probe for money laundering. He's desperate to flex power to distract from it. Marcus's pulse quickened. Can you get that to James by tomorrow? Already sent, Elena said. And the whistleblower, Dr. Shah's wife, a legal assistant at Lawrence's firm, found emails proving Cindy pressured a hospital donor to target Lena. It's damning. The next day, Lena faced the hospital board, her head high despite the sleepless night. The board chair, Dr. Ellison, a stern woman with ties to Atlanta's elite, led the review. Dr. Harris, we've received a complaint about your conduct, she said, her tone neutral but probing. Care to respond? Lena presented her case. Patient outcomes, colleague endorsements, Tanya's letter. My record speaks for itself, she said. This complaint is baseless, driven by personal vendetta, not facts. Dr. Ellison's eyes softened slightly. We'll review your materials. Expect a decision next week. As Lena left, Priya caught her in the hall. You killed it, and I heard the donors backing off. Someone leaked their ties to your neighbors. Lena's lips curved. Elena's work, I bet. Back in Crestwood, the Porsche returned at noon, its tire repaired, the lipstick scrubbed clean. But the obvious victory was bittersweet. Marcus's top client, Pinnacle Systems, officially dropped him, citing concerns traced to Lawrence's influence. The loss stung, threatening ReedTech's growth. Marcus stood in the garage staring at the car, its pink gleam a reminder of their fight. Lena joined him, her scrubs swapped for a sweater. We're winning, Marcus. Not just the car, the bigger battle. They thought they could break us. Marcus pulled her close, his voice low. They don't know us, but they're about to. Across town, Brooke Whitmore faced her own reckoning. At a coffee shop with college friends, she bragged about her Porsche, posting selfies from the tow. Truck day, her friend Mia, tired of her entitlement, snapped. You can't just take someone's car, Brooke. And that slur you used? It's disgusting. Brooke flushed, her voice shrill. It's my color. They don't deserve it. Mia stood grabbing her bag. You sound like a spoiled kid. Grow up. The table fell silent, Brooke's isolation a preview of her family's unraveling. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across Crestwood, painting the Reeds' driveway in hues of gold and amber. The pink Porsche 911, returned from impoundment that morning, stood polished and gleaming in the garage, its repaired tire and scrubbed door a testament to the Reeds' small but hard-won victory in court. Marcus Reed stood at the kitchen counter, chopping vegetables for dinner, the rhythmic thud of the knife a counterpoint to the storm in his mind. The emergency hearing with Judge Maria Torres had vacated the Whitmore's fraudulent court order and slapped them with a restraining order, but Marcus knew the fight was far from over. Lawrence Whitmore's threat, I have connections, echoed, a reminder of the power he wielded. Lena sat at the dining table, her laptop open to a draft of a speech she'd been asked to give at a hospital symposium on workplace intimidation. Her fingers hovered over the keys, her thoughts split between the speech and the hospital board's ongoing review of the anonymous complaint against her. The board's decision was due Monday, and though Priya Shah had hinted the donor's pressure was waning, Lena felt the weight of uncertainty. She glanced at Amara's latest drawing, taped to the fridge, a pink car with pink dock in bold letters, and smiled faintly. The 7-year-old's recovery was a beacon, but the Whitmore's vendetta threatened everything Lena held dear. Marcus's phone buzzed, pulling him from his thoughts. An email from Sarah, the CTO at Pinnacle Systems, who'd been dodging his calls since they dropped ReedTech's contract. Marcus, I'm sorry. The board spooked, but I'm pushing for a review. Hang in there. No mention of Lawrence, but his shadow was unmistakable. The loss of Pinnacle's $3 million deal had forced Marcus to delay hiring plans, a blow to his mission of creating opportunities for young engineers from communities like his own. He'd poured his heart into ReedTech, building it from a basement, dreamed to a firm trusted by Fortune 500 clients. Now Lawrence's influence was unraveling that legacy. Dinner's almost ready, Marcus called, trying to keep his voice light. You want collards or green beans? Lena looked up, her eyes tired but warm. Collards. And a plan to bury the Whitmores. Marcus chuckled, but his heart wasn't in it. James is working on the lawsuit. Harassment, defamation, maybe conspiracy. Elena's got more on Lawrence's firm. We're close. Lena nodded, her resolve unshaken. Good. Because I'm done playing defense. At Atlanta Children's Hospital, Lena's morning rounds brought a bright spot. Amara, now strong enough to sit in a wheelchair, greeted her with a grin. Pink Doc, my birthday's tomorrow. You coming, right? Her bandages were gone, revealing a faint scar, but her eyes sparkled with hope. Wouldn't miss it, Lena said, checking Amara's chart. Her vision tests were improving, a small miracle after the glioma surgery. You picking the cake. Flavor? Chocolate, Amara declared, then leaned in, whispering, Mom says you're in trouble. Is it true? Lena's heart twinged. Just some grown-up nonsense. I'm handling it, kiddo. Tanya, Amara's mother, stood nearby, her face etched with gratitude and worry. Dr. Harris, I heard about the board. I've got 20 parents, ready to sign a petition for you. You saved our kids. We won't let them push you out. Lena's throat tightened. Thank you, Tanya. That means everything. As Lena left the room, Priya Shah caught up with her. The donor backed off, Priya whispered. Word is, someone leaked their ties to your neighbors to the board chair. Dr. Ellison's furious about being played. Lena's lips curved. Elena Martinez strikes again. Elena, the private investigator, was indeed closing in. In her cramped office, surrounded by coffee cups and legal pads, she sifted through documents from Whitmore Capital. Her whistleblower, Dr. Shah's wife Mira, had sent a goldmine. Emails proving Cindy had pressured a hospital donor to file the complaint against Lena, offering a generous contribution in return. More damning were records of Lawrence's firm, offshore accounts, falsified tax filings, and a backdated Porsche inquiry dated after the Reeds' purchase. A federal probe into Whitmore Capital was heating up, with agents circling Lawrence's Manhattan office. Elena's latest find was a photo from a Bahamas resort. Lawrence and Judge Harold Grayson, toasting with martinis, their families vacationing together. This is it, Elena told James Carter over the phone. Grayson's bias is clear and Lawrence's firm is a house of cards. I'm meeting a source tomorrow who says the feds are prepping a raid. James's voice crackled with excitement. Send it all. We'll hit them with everything in the lawsuit. In Crestwood, the neighborhood was shifting. Mrs. Lynn, the retired teacher, had turned her rose-filled living room into a command center, rallying neighbors to support the Reeds. Malik Johnson, the young lawyer, was drafting an amicus brief for their lawsuit citing the Whitmores' abuse of process as a community threat. The Garcias, who'd endured Cindy's snide remarks about their modest home, shared a story of her suggesting they fit better in a different neighborhood. Mr. Thompson, the engineer, offered to testify about Cindy's new money comments at block parties aimed squarely at the Reeds. But the Parkers, an older couple aligned with the Whitmores' social circle, remained distant. At Mrs. Lynn's meeting, they'd sent a curt email declining to attend, citing neutrality. Mrs. Lynn's eyes narrowed as she read it aloud. Neutrality's just cowardice, she said. They'll see reason when the truth goes public. The truth was spreading faster than the Whitmores expected. A local news blog picked up the story, spurred by Mrs. Lynn's tip to a reporter friend. Crestwood couple fights racist harassment over dream car ran the headline, with quotes from neighbors about the Whitmores' behavior. The article went viral on social media, amplified by a tweet from Malik, proud to support Marcus and Lena Reed. No one should face racism for living their dream. Justice for the Reeds across town, Brooke Whitmore was unraveling. At a trendy Buckhead cafe, she sat with her college friends, scrolling through the viral article, her face flushed. This is so unfair, she whined, tossing her phone on the table. That car was supposed to be mine. Pink's my color, not theirs. Mia, her closest friend, rolled her eyes. Brooke, you sound like a brat. You slashed their tire and used a slur. You think that's okay? Brooke's jaw dropped. I didn't mean it like that. They're making it a big deal. Another friend, Jordan, chimed in. It is a big deal. You can't just demand their car because you want it. And your mom's no better. Everyone's talking about her at the country club. Brooke's eyes welled up, but her voice was shrill. You're supposed to be on my side. Mia stood, grabbing her bag. Not when you're wrong. Call me when you grow up. The group dispersed, leaving Brooke alone, her social status crumbling, as the article's comments piled up. Spoiled rich girl and racist neighbors exposed. Back in Crestwood, Marcus faced his own setback. A second client, a mid-sized retailer, delayed their contract renewal citing budget concerns. Marcus's banking contact confirmed Lawrence's hand. A board member had received a call from Whitmore Capital, hinting at risks in working with Reed Tech. Marcus spent the evening in his office crunching numbers. Layoffs loomed if he couldn't secure new clients soon. He thought of his team, engineers like Jamal, who'd escaped the same rough neighborhood Marcus had, given a chance to shine. Letting them go would feel like a betrayal. Lena came home late, her speech draft finished but her energy drained. She found Marcus in the garage, staring at the Porsche. Bad day? She asked, leaning against the doorframe. Lost another client, he said, his voice heavy. Lawrence is playing dirty. Lena stepped closer, her hand on his arm. Then, we play smarter. Elena's got enough to sink him, and the hospital board's leaning our way. We're stronger than they think. Marcus pulled her into a hug, the car's pink glow a silent ally. I just want our life back. We will, Lena said. But first we take them down. The next morning, Amara's birthday brought a moment of joy. Lena arrived at the hospital with a small gift, a pink toy car with Pink Doc scrawled on it. Amara's room was filled with balloons, Tanya beaming as her daughter laughed, blowing out candles on a chocolate cake. You made it, Amara squealed, hugging Lena. Always, Lena said, her heart full. Tanya pulled her aside, handing her a petition signed by 30 parents and staff. For the board, she said. You're not alone. As Lena left, Priya shared news. The board had dismissed the complaint, citing lack of evidence and improper influence from the donor. Lena exhaled, relief washing over her. One battle won, she said. Now for the war. That afternoon, Elena's call brought the war closer. Feds raided Whitmore Capital this morning, she said. Money laundering, tax evasion. Lawrence is scrambling. And Grayson's under review. His rulings are being audited. Your lawsuit's about to get a lot stronger. Marcus and Lena met with James that evening. Their dining room a war room once more. We're filing tomorrow, James said. 1.2 million for harassment, defamation, and emotional distress. With Elena's evidence, we've got them dead to rights. Lena looked at Marcus, her eyes fierce. This is for us, for Amara, for every kid I operate on. They thought they could break us. They were wrong. Marcus nodded, his resolve hardening. The Whitmores had painted their true colors pink, but the Reeds' fight was a canvas of strength, community, and justice, and they were far from finished. Crestwood morning was crisp, the air carrying the faint scent of Mrs. Lynn's roses as Marcus Reed stood in his driveway, watching a delivery truck unload a new security camera. The pink Porsche 911, returned after the court's ruling, gleamed in the garage, a symbol of defiance against the Whitmores' campaign. But the victory felt fragile. The $1.2 million lawsuit Marcus and Lena were filing today, alleging harassment, defamation, and emotional distress, was a bold strike. But Lawrence Whitmore's influence still loomed. His threat to target Marcus's business and Lena's career had already cost Reed Tech Solutions 2 major clients, and the hospital board's dismissal of the complaint against Lena hadn't erased the stress of the ordeal. Inside, Lena sat at the dining table, finalizing her speech for the hospital symposium on workplace intimidation, set for tomorrow. Her laptop screen glowed with notes, but her mind drifted to Amara, who was being discharged today after months of battling a glioma. The 7-year-old's recovery was a triumph, a reminder of why Lena endured the long hours and microaggressions at Atlanta Children's Hospital. But the Whitmores' attacks, vandalism, a fraudulent court order, a baseless complaint, had turned their personal milestone into a public battle. Lena's speech would draw on that fight, a call to resist bullying rooted in prejudice, and she felt the weight of speaking not just for herself, but for others silenced by power. Marcus joined her, setting a mug of coffee beside her. "James just called," he said, his voice steady but tense. "The lawsuits filed. Harassment, defamation, and civil conspiracy. Elena's evidence, Grayson's emails, the backdated Porsche order, Cindy's donor pressure, is airtight. We're going for blood." Lena's eyes met his, fierce and unyielding. "Good. This is for us. For Amara. For every kid I save. They thought they could scare us out of Crestwood. They're about to learn." The lawsuit hit the news like a thunderclap. The local blog's viral story, "Crestwood couple fights racist." Harassment over Dream Car had already sparked outrage, and the filing amplified it. By noon, Justice for the Reeds was trending on X, with posts quoting Mrs. Lynn's interview on a local TV station. "The Whitmores tried to bully Marcus and Lena because they're black. We won't stand for it." Malik Johnson, the young lawyer, neighbor, shared a thread detailing the legal abuse, gaining thousands of retweets. The story spread to national outlets, with headlines like, "Atlanta couple sues neighbors over racist Porsche dispute." Across town, the Whitmore's empire was cracking. Elena Martinez, the private investigator, had tipped James off about the federal raid on Whitmore Capital. At 8:47 a.m., FBI agents stormed Lawrence's Manhattan office, seizing computers and files. Evidence of money laundering and tax evasion, offshore, accounts, falsified records, piled up, confirming Elena's findings. A source at the courthouse told her Judge Harold Grayson, Lawrence's country club ally, was suspended pending an ethics probe, his rulings under scrutiny. The backdated Porsche inquiry, a clumsy attempt to legitimize their claim, was now part of the fraud investigation. Lawrence's absence from Crestwood didn't shield his family. Cindy, holed up in their colonial mansion, faced a barrage of calls from former allies distancing themselves. The country club, once her stage, buzzed with whispers about her tasteless behavior. Brooke, meanwhile, doubled down on her entitlement. Her blog post, titled "Pink's My Color, Not Theirs," was a whiny screed claiming the Reeds had stolen her dream car and exaggerated the racism accusations. It backfired, spectacularly. Comments flooded in, "Spoiled brat and your family's done." Her college friends, already alienated after the cafe confrontation, unfollowed her on social media, leaving Brooke to sulk by the pool, her world shrinking. In Crestwood, the community's tide was turning. Mrs. Lynn hosted another meeting. Her living room packed with neighbors, the Garcias, Mr. Thompson, Malik, and even the Parkers, the older couple who'd clung to neutrality. Mrs. Parker, a retired banker with a penchant for pearls, spoke hesitantly. "We thought the Whitmores were just protective of their status. But Cindy's comments at the HOA, the way she looked at you, Marcus, it wasn't right. We're sorry we stayed silent." Marcus nodded, his anger tempered by their shift. "It's not too late to stand up. We need everyone." Malik outlined a plan for a neighborhood anti-harassment code inspired by the Reeds' fight. "This isn't just about one family," he said. "It's about making Crestwood a place where no one's targeted for who they are." The Garcias shared their own story, Cindy's suggestion they move somewhere more affordable, and Mr. Thompson recalled her disdain for newcomers at block parties. The room buzzed with resolve, and Mrs. Lynn proposed a petition to present at the next HOA meeting, already signed by 12 households. At the hospital, Lena attended Amara's discharge, a moment of pure joy. The girl, clutching her pink toy car, hugged Lena tightly. "You're coming to my party next month, right, Pink Doc?" she asked, her eyes bright. "Wouldn't miss it," Lena said, her voice thick. Tanya handed her a card from the staff and parents, thanking her for her courage. "You're not just a doctor," Tanya said. "You're a fighter. We've got your back." That evening, Lena delivered her symposium speech to a packed auditorium. Dressed in a tailored blazer, her voice steady, she wove her story into a broader call. "Workplace intimidation thrives on silence," she said. "I've faced it, colleagues doubting my skills, neighbors questioning my place because of my race. But silence isn't strength. Speaking up, standing together, that's how we win. The room erupted in applause, with Priya and Tanya in the front row, their pride palpable. A video of the speech posted online went viral, cementing Lena's nickname. Pink Doc Marcus, watching the live stream from his office, felt a surge of pride. But his own battle was faltering. ReedTech's second client loss had strained cash flow, and Jamal, his lead engineer, sensed the tension. "Boss, we're with you," Jamal said during a team meeting. "Whatever's going on, we'll ride it out." Marcus nodded, but the weight of potential layoffs gnawed at him. He'd promised his team, kids from neighborhoods like his, where opportunities were scarce, a future. Losing that felt like losing himself. He reached out to a new client, a tech startup in Midtown, pitching ReedTech services with a desperation he masked behind confidence. The CEO, Aisha, was impressed. "I saw the news," she said. "You're fighting the good fight. Let's talk next week." It wasn't a contract, but it was hope. That night, Marcus and Lena met with James and Elena in their dining room, the war room now a hub of strategy. James laid out the lawsuit's next steps: depositions, discovery, and a push for a public apology. Elena shared her latest find, a recorded call, obtained legally through her source, of Cindy admitting to Lawrence she'd handled the hospital donor. "This is gold," James said. "It proves conspiracy and malice. We're not just winning, we're exposing them." Lena's eyes gleamed. "I want more than money. I want them to admit what they did. Publicly. For every kid who looks like Amara, who dreams big and gets told they don't belong." Marcus nodded, his hand finding hers. "And I want ReedTech back on track. Lawrence's empire is crumbling. We'll outlast him." The next morning, the news broke. Lawrence Whitmore was indicted on federal charges of money laundering and tax evasion. Agents had uncovered $10 million in hidden accounts, and his firm's collapse was imminent. The Whitmore's mansion went up for sale, their assets frozen. Cindy, spotted at the grocery store, looked haggard, her designer bags replaced by a reusable tote. Brooke, now working retail after dropping out of college, posted a tearful video apologizing for her blog, but it was too late. Her reputation was in tatters. In Crestwood, the HOA meeting was a turning point. Mrs. Lynn presented the anti-harassment code, backed by 20 signatures. The Parkers, now fully on board, spoke in support, their voices shaky but sincere. "We were wrong to stay silent," Mr. Parker said. "This neighborhood's better because of the Reeds." The code passed unanimously, a quiet victory that felt like a new beginning. Marcus and Lena stood in their driveway that evening, the Porsche's pink glow catching the sunset. "We're not done," Lena said, her voice firm. "But we're winning." Marcus pulled her close, his heart full. "For us, for Amara, for everyone who's been told they can't. We're rewriting the story. The Whitmore's downfall was a spectacle, but the Reeds' fight was a legacy. The lawsuit, the community, the truth. They were building something bigger than a car, something no one could take away." The Crestwood neighborhood glowed under the soft light of a late spring evening, the air thick with the scent of blooming jasmine and the hum of community. Marcus and Lena Reed stood in their driveway, the pink Porsche 911 gleaming like a beacon of their hard-fought triumph. It was a month since the emergency hearing with Judge Maria Torres, and the Reeds' $1.2 million lawsuit against the Whitmores had reached its climax. Today, the settlement was finalized. $750,000, a public apology, and community service for Cindy and Brooke at a local diversity center. The Whitmores' empire had crumbled, Lawrence's indictment sealing their fall, while the Reeds' fight had transformed Crestwood and beyond. Inside their home, the dining room, once a war room of evidence and strategy, was now a celebration hub. Photos of Amara, Lena's young patient, lined the walls, her recovery a parallel to the Reeds' victory. Lena, in a sleek navy dress, was preparing for Amara's birthday party at the hospital, a promise kept to the girl who dubbed her Pink Doc. Marcus, in a tailored blazer, was finalizing a pitch for a new client, a tech firm inspired by Reed Tech Solutions' resilience. The loss of Pinnacle Systems and another client had stung, but Marcus's persistence had landed. 2 new contracts, enough to stabilize his firm and protect his team. Jamal, his lead engineer, had rallied the staff, their loyalty a testament to Marcus's vision of opportunity for all. The lawsuit's resolution was a spectacle. James Carter, their lawyer, had pushed for maximum impact, leveraging Elena Martinez's damning evidence, emails proving Judge Harold Grayson's collusion with Lawrence, Cindy's coercion of a hospital donor, and Whitmore Capital's fraudulent Porsche inquiry. The settlement hearing, held in a packed courtroom, saw Cindy and Brooke, pale and subdued, read a scripted apology. "We acknowledge our actions were motivated by racial bias," Cindy said, her voice flat, avoiding Lena's gaze. "We regret the harm caused to the Reeds and the community." Brooke, her pink dress replaced by a plain sweater, mumbled her part, her eyes downcast. "I'm sorry for my behavior, including the vandalism and inappropriate language." The words were hollow, but the courtroom's silence was heavy, the weight of their admission sinking in. The judge, Maria Torres, approved the settlement, her voice stern. "This case exposed a gross abuse of power. The Reeds' courage has set a precedent. Let it be a lesson." She ordered the Whitmores to complete 200 hours of community service at the Atlanta Diversity Center, a mandate that stung more than the financial hit. The $750,000, James noted, would fund the Reeds' new venture, a STEM scholarship foundation for underserved youth. Lawrence's fate was sealed days later. His guilty plea to money laundering and tax evasion earned him 7 years in federal prison, his once mighty Whitmore Capital reduced to ashes. The family's colonial mansion was sold, their belongings packed into a condo as assets froze. Cindy, stripped of her socialite status, avoided Crestwood's streets, her designer bags, replaced by practicality. Brooke, now working retail at a mall, dropped out of college, her dreams of a pink Porsche buried under the wreckage of her family's reputation. Her blog post, "Pink's My Color Not Theirs," was deleted after relentless backlash, but screenshots lived on, a digital scarlet letter. In Crestwood, the community had transformed. Mrs. Lynn's anti-harassment code, passed unanimously at the HOA meeting, became a model for other neighborhoods. The retired teacher, whose roses had witnessed the Reeds' fight, gave a TV interview that went national, calling out the Whitmores' racism and praising Marcus and Lena's resilience. "They're not just neighbors," she said, her voice steady. "They're family." The Parkers, once neutral, became vocal supporters, donating to the Reeds Foundation and hosting a block party to celebrate the code's passage. Malik Johnson, the young lawyer, drafted policies for other HOAs, his amicus brief cited in legal journals as a case study in community justice. The Garcias and Mr. Thompson organized a neighborhood watch, ensuring no one faced the Whitmores' brand of prejudice again. Even the Parkers' redemption was complete. Mrs. Parker, tearful, apologized to Lena at the block party. "We were wrong to stay silent," she said. "You've made us better." Lena, gracious, hugged her, the gesture sealing Crestwood's unity. At Atlanta Children's Hospital, Amara's birthday party was a burst of joy. The pediatric ward's rec room was decked with balloons and streamers, chocolate cake smeared on paper plates. Amara, now walking with a slight wobble, wore a pink tiara, her laughter echoing as she opened Lena's gift. A doctor's playset with a tiny pink stethoscope. "I'm gonna be like you, Pink Doc," she declared, hugging Lena. Tanya, Amara's mother, handed Lena a framed photo of the 3 of them, taken during Amara's discharge. "You gave us our girl back," she said, her voice thick, "and you showed us how to fight. That petition? It's got 100 signatures now for you and every doctor who's targeted." Lena's symposium speech had ripple effects. Posted online, it garnered millions of views, inspiring a hospital task force on workplace equity, chaired by Priya Shah. Dr. Ellison, the board chair, personally apologized to Lena, admitting the donor's influence, tied to Cindy, had clouded their judgment. Lena's nickname, Pink Doc, became a badge of honor, with patients' families leaving pink flowers at her office door. Marcus's fight for ReedTech was paying off. The Midtown tech startup led by Aisha signed a $2 million contract, praising Marcus's integrity. Another client, a healthcare provider, followed, drawn by the Reed's story. Jamal and the team celebrated with a pizza party, toasting Marcus with sodas. "You didn't let us down, boss," Jamal said. "We're building something bigger now." The Reed's STEM Scholarship Foundation launched with the settlement funds, its first recipients announced at a community event. 3 high schoolers from East Atlanta, kids who reminded Marcus of his younger self, received full rides to tech programs, their families tearful in the audience. Lena spoke at the event, her voice clear. "This foundation is for dreamers who've been told they don't belong. We're here to say you do." The event, held in Crestwood's Community Center, drew neighbors, hospital staff, and local leaders. Mrs. Lynn presented the Reeds with a plaque, "For Marcus and Lena Reed, Champions of Justice." Malik announced a citywide initiative to replicate Crestwood's anti-harassment code, with the Reeds as advisors. Tanya and Amara in matching pink shirts cheered from the front row, Amara waving her toy stethoscope. That night, Marcus and Lena drove the Porsche through Crestwood, the cars, pink glow catching the sunset. Neighbors waved, kids pointed, and Mr. Thompson gave a thumbs up. Lena, behind the wheel, laughed, a sound Marcus hadn't heard in months. If they'd just admired the car, she said, they'd still have their mansion. Marcus grinned, his hand on hers. Their greed painted their true colors pink. Ours is strength. The Porsche, once a gift, was now a symbol of their stand. The Reeds had fought not just for themselves, but for every dreamer targeted by prejudice. Their foundation, their community, their love, it was a legacy no one could impound.